Origine Cycle HELP.
You might not immediately guess, but this is an electric gravel bike. The most striking feature? You can hardly tell, except for the control module here, but it's also feather light. This bike weighs, depending on the options and how far you take it, between 11.5 and 12.7 kilos. It's intended that way because it's a sports bike. It's one you'd use recreationally, but also for sports. It's a gravel bike, but with electric support. Typically, people might think it's a bike for older people to get back into gravel biking or to start exercising again. But for me, for instance, a beginner gravel biker, it's perfect. I've been able to participate in trails that I normally wouldn't be able to. The long rides were also a lot easier to manage, especially surviving the tough uphill near the end. And if I wanted to challenge myself, I could just turn off the electric assistance. And then I actually have a slightly heavier gravel bike, making it harder again. So on one hand, yes, older people can get back on the road, push their limits once more. But for younger people, yeah, it's actually something that challenges you to attempt new tracks, try to increase your speed and improve your time on difficult trails. The e-support really does help, especially when you're worn out, just cranking up the assistance to maximum to get through the tough parts and make it back home if there's still some ride left in you. And yes, that support is truly a welcome help.
Starting with the frame and design, it's very sporty, which makes sense as it's a gravel bike. The frame is made of aluminum, which contributes to its lightness. As I mentioned before, hovering around 12 kg, this makes it incredibly light and easy to lift with just one hand. An aluminum frame usually has the downside of being somewhat less stiff, meaning there's some flexibility, and you might feel the impacts a bit more. But it remains a gravel bike. You'll be riding on uneven terrain. To help with this, Origine Cycle has installed a carbon fork to absorb some of the shocks. Of course, you'll still feel significant bumps and harsh rocks on gravel roads. That's somewhat expected. The bike in this way offers a good balance between sporty riding on smooth roads and the more adventurous gravel biking on rough terrains.
The battery is integrated into the frame, offering 250 kWh. That might not seem a lot, and it's not meant for you to use the bike constantly in electric mode. You'll often be going over 25 km/h or contributing some pedal power yourself. Therefore, the battery is only lightly used when you actually need it. During the longest test ride, I covered 40 kilometers, 25-ish miles, half or 20 kilometers on the lowest setting, indicated by the green arrow, and another 20 kilometers on the purple arrow, or the highest setting. Dealing with a lot of headwind at the time, it was uphill, downhill, and through the forest. By the end of the trip, we were left with about 30% of the battery. Due to the lightweight on flat roads, we consistently hit or hovered around 25 km/h, barely using the electric mode.
The charging port is right here, easily opening and closing with a sturdy rubber cover to ensure it remains sealed, keeping out mud or water, because of course you'll be biking off-road with this bike. The battery cannot be removed for charging, so you simply plug it into a socket with the Mahle charger.
The electric motor is located here in the rear wheel. They opt for a rear wheel motor, which is much lighter, and on a sports bike like this, it's not really about getting the benefits of a mid-drive motor, but rather those of a rear wheel motor. The X20 from the German brand Mahle delivers 55 Nim of power, which is quite a lot for such a compact motor. It's truly designed for sporting cycling, small, powerful, and feather light, weighing only 1.4 kilos. It's probably one of the lightest rear wheel motors on the market. You can also tell this motor is made or set up for sporting riding. I say set up because there's quite a bit of software involved. And this software is actually what makes this motor or this support work so well. It ensures you always receive the right support at the right moment without making the electric assistance too noticeable, preserving that genuine cycling feeling you definitely want to maintain when you're sporty gravel biking. On the lowest setting, you'll barely notice the electric assistance is there. It's as if this electric bike is no longer electric. It rides just like a regular gravel bike. I just placed the bike on the lowest setting, and instantly you notice there is electric support because there is a torque sensor, a power sensor that detects when you start pedaling right away. If you switch to the medium or highest power, you immediately notice, oh yeah, there is some power available here, but it's perfectly adjusted to your wattage, to the power you're exerting, and that ensures a genuine biking feeling. When you're gravel biking, you get the impression that it's really you doing the work.
On the rear wheel, we also find some other components that are quite important for a gravel bike, and this is also an advantage of Origine Cycle and their configurator, which we'll dive into later. But with their online configurator, you can change the bike completely based on your level and budget. First off, the brakes. Powerful Shimano disc brakes on this test bike, which you can adapt and choose based on what you need most. The gears. This is a Shimano GRX 11-speed, giving you 11 different gears that you can adjust from the handlebars. But here too, you can make many adjustments in the online configurator. When considering a gravel bike or another sporty bike, you always look at the choice of tires, but also the rims. On this test bike, there are carbon rims to better absorb the shocks and make the bike even lighter. Yet again, you have plenty of choices in the online configurator. As for the tires, it's the same story. If you're going to gravel and off-roads, you can fit special gravel tires like the ones from Michelin. But if you want to use it on the street, there are road options for that as well. There's also a complete road version of the bike. If you choose to use it not only for sports, but also for everyday commuting from point A to point B, this is the same bike, but with parts adapted to the underground. Everything about this bike is extremely light and very minimalist. This subtlety is also evident in the control system from Mahle. It's very easy to use, just press and hold a button to turn on the bike, and it shows what stand you're in and how much battery is left. After our test ride of more than 40 kilometers, there's about a 3 or slightly more of the battery remaining. If you opt for the display upgrade, you get an onboard computer from Mahle mounted at the top of the handlebars. It allows you to see various options such as your speed, remaining battery life, how many kilometers you have traveled, and other statistics.
With this onboard computer option, it's also possible to scale down the electric support, which currently is a small downside to this minimalistic design. I can only go up in electric support, not down. If you want to go from the highest setting back down to the middle, you actually have to cycle through all the options, meaning you go from high to off to low to medium. To avoid this minor issue, you opt for the upgrade to the Mahle onboard computer.
Before I forget, shifting gears happens here at the handlebars. If you've never ridden a gravel bike or any sporty bike before, this might seem a bit odd, and you might find yourself searching for the shifters. No worries, these are cleverly hidden just under or in the brake lever. With a simple click of the first part, you shift up. To shift down, you just give the whole brake lever one or more taps downward. This way, you can shift quickly and respond to an uphill climb or an increase in speed. Atop the frame, there's also a small, let's call it a tattoo, of coordinates. This is the location of their factory in France, where you can go test, adapt, and buy a bike. So, there you have it. This is a review of the Origine bike in general. What else is important in a review? Well, there's always a bit about price comparison, and while the electric gravel bike market isn't too crowded yet, it's a segment that's rapidly growing. This electric support is actually an excellent way to broaden the appeal of gravel biking, encouraging people who might not otherwise consider it, or think they're no longer capable, to give it a try. For those who already enjoy gravel biking, having that extra bit of assistance can still be appealing. So who exactly is this electric gravel bike for? Well, on one hand, you could say it's for an older person getting back on the bike. But on the other hand, it could also be for a friend or partner who normally can't keep up on gravel bike rides but now can.
It's important not to view it solely as a help for those who normally wouldn't try it, but also for advanced gravel bikers. It allows them to approach their rides differently, expand their routes, or simply spend much longer on the road. It's also important to talk about the brand, Origine Cycle. It's a direct-to-consumer brand, meaning you won't find this bike in a traditional bike shop. This bike is sold directly by Origine Cycle. When you go online to their web shop, you'll find a vast configurator where you can set up and adjust all elements of the bike. The only constants across all versions of the Origine HELP are the frame, the electric motor, and the battery inside. Every other aspect, from handlebars to wheels, wheel axles, seats, to seat posts, can all be adjusted in the online configurator. In this way, you can have a base model starting at $3,700, but you could also opt for a fully upgraded model for advanced gravel bikers at around $5,000. And that truly concludes my review of the Origine Cycle. For a not so advanced gravel biker, someone like me who bikes on gravel occasionally but not very frequently, this was a perfect entry model.
I can easily imagine someone starting out with gravel biking and looking for that electric assistance to make it a more enjoyable or easier experience from the get-go. Such a rider would indeed find a great bike in this model. That's not to say there aren't competitors out there. For you, it's just important to compare the price and the quality. This test bike came equipped with a few minor options. I didn't have a detailed spec sheet immediately, but it should come out to about $4,000.
You also have the opportunity to test these bikes. You're certainly invited to visit their factory in France, where you can test all the bikes one by one, get them adjusted to your preferences, and then actually purchase them right there. For a Belgian, that might seem a bit far, but fortunately, they also participate in bike expos, so if there's one near you, especially the sporty ones, go there, test it out, and then you'll see for yourself. On their website, you can directly go to the configurator, make adjustments to tailor the bike to your level, and of course your budget.